Hi, this is Frank Warren and you're watching Lights Out.
This is Lights Out. I'm Faisal Khan. Welcome to our podcast, joined by the usual faces, HF and Ron. And today we're going to be discussing Dazn, a subscription-based channel which Eddie Hearn is bringing to all boxing and Bellator fans for $10 a month. We're going to be asking the questions today. Will it be a success or will it not be a success? Of course, I'm here with the usual faces. HF, we'll start with you. First of all, what do you make of Dazn?
I think it's good. It's a good product. It's going up against ESPN Plus and other streaming services, but the main thing it's going up against is the fact that ESPN has got terrific fighters right now. They're going up against Manny Pacquiao, John Strongford, Lemachenko, who are all with Bob Arum, who own the ESPN Plus channel. Then it's going up against Showtime. It's going up against HBO. So it doesn't really need to have great fighters in the stable to be able to click and work for the US market. At the moment, it's got Jesse Vargas and Demetrius Andrade, but they're not household names. They're not the kind of fighters who would make you want to pay for the zone because you can't miss a fight involving Jesse Vargas. And you've got Maurice Hooker as well for WBA title, but I don't know how genuine that title is.
Yeah.
So as long as he gets the right fighters signed up, then it'll be a success. But it's early days, and hopefully he's on his way to becoming a bigger competitor in the US market.
Ron, everyone praises the work that Eddie Hearn's done over the last few years. You've only got to look at some of the names he's got. You've only got to look at the facts that he's taken the Matchroom business over to America and got the likes of Daniel Jacobs, and he's got the up-and-coming Danae Yelusinov, Katie Taylor as well. But of this idea, what do you make of it? And, do you back it? Do you think it's going to become a success? Or
I mean, it's exciting. I reckon it potentially could change the way we consume boxing in the UK at the moment. As HF's mentioned, that in America they have similar kind of subscription-based monthly, for what you pay for with the ESPN Plus and HBO boxing. And I'm excited about it. I'm looking to see what kind of services it offers. He signed, as HF mentioned, 4 American fighters, which are not household names as of yet. Maybe Maurice Hooker was over in the UK, where again, he won that vacant the WBA title off Terry Flanagan. So Jarrell Miller, he was causing some big noise, a few days ago against our very own Anthony Joshua. But this isn't good. I mean, it benefits not only obviously Eddie Hearn. It gives him getting that foot in that front door. And also it's a base for these American fighters to kind of make a name for themselves across the pond.
not only does it feature boxing, but it also features Bellator as well. You mentioned...
So you're going to have the UFC market now as well to appeal to...
You mentioned competition.
Yeah.
How many years do you think it can be before Eddie Hearn can be competing with the likes of ESPN?
Well, I think around 2 years is fine. He's got an 8-year deal with Dazn, $1 billion deal over the space of 8 years. So he's got to obviously make that money back somehow, and the only way he can do that is by signing big names to attracting enough eyeballs for them to want to pay $10 a month, which in turn reimburses the owners.
No, obviously the Dazn wasn't the only announcement. We mentioned that there was 4 fighters signing with Matchroom, all from the US. 4 fairly big enough names in the boxing scene. If you know your boxing, one of them is obviously the world champion in Maurice Hooker. We saw him take on Terry Flanagan. Demetrius Andrade is making a lot of noise in terms of a fight against Billy Joe Saunders. Jesse Vargas, who's no slouch, and of course big baby Jarrell Miller. Now, in terms of obviously them 4 signings for Matchroom and for the US side of the business, how much praise have you got to give Eddie Hearn for getting them fighters to sign with Matchroom?
No, it looks interesting. I mean, Jarrell Miller, for a while now he's been talked up as a potential heavyweight to kind of gate crash that little party of kind of the top heavyweight contenders. Didn't look too great in his last fight against Duhaupas, but made some noise. I think again, like I said, it gives him a platform to kind of make a name for himself. For him to be known by the British public. But we'll see how that comes off, how he does in his next fight, which is yet to be announced. Andrade, another good, not a prospect, but he's an established fighter, undefeated fighter. He's calling out the likes of Billy Joe Saunders, so not a bad shout. Then we've got Vargas, who's coming off a draw against Adrian Broner, but prior to that he came off a loss against Pacquiao.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's an experienced fighter. And lastly, Maurice Hooker, who I like the look of, you know, and also undefeated fighter. So, for boxing, people who watch boxing, there you know those names. But people, if you want to grab people's attention, that's the people who don't usually watch boxing. It's not as exciting. But like you said earlier, that it needs the bigger names. You know,
Obviously, when you talk about promoters, everyone looks at a promoter and think, well, this guy's got that guy, this guy's got that guy. But Eddie Hearn, he just keeps on snapping up the best prospects, you know, the best fighters out there.
And I think the biggest appeal to go towards Eddie Hearn is the fact that he can almost guarantee you 3-4 fights a year. If you want 3 fights a year, because he's got it on his platform, he doesn't have any TV scheduling conflicting with his Dazn. He can guarantee you 3 fights a year, and he can pay you big money for it because he's got such a big budget.
Yeah.
And people like Baby Miller, who never had the amateur pedigree, who never had the gold medal behind him, he needs 3 fights a year just to build his name up continuously, so he can get reputation, so he can get towards a world title shot. Jesse Vargas, he's been
2-time world champion.
He's been around. He's been around for a while. Yeah,
he's a big enough name. I think his biggest name on this table. Maurice Hooker,
A world champion.
world champion, but I don't really know. I don't understand this WBA stuff. I mean, you got like 3 world champions in WBA at the same time.
Oh,
same weight division.
we were there that night. He fought
vacant
Terry
title,
Fanning,
wasn't it? Yeah.
and he put up a good performance.
Oh no, he absolutely, kind of won that outright. Coming over to the backyard.
Yeah. Let's speak a bit about Demetrius Andrade. There's a lot of bit.
I love him.
You mentioned obviously in the group the other day how much of a massive talent he is, and obviously he's been calling out for a fight against Billy Joe Saunders. And if obviously we're all active on Twitter, on social media, we also know Billy Joe Saunders is interested in that fight as well. Due to a lot of Twitter posts the other day, I realised that everyone was the most excited fighter from that signing was Demetrius Andrade from Twitter polls. Now, in terms, Eddie Hearn spoke very highly about him. A lot of fans speak highly about him, and obviously, again, Twitter polls were saying he was the most exciting fighter out of the 4 that have signed. So, is the right thing to do now is to get Demetrius Andrade in the ring with Billy Joe Saunders, or do you think maybe perhaps fight a Daniel Jacobs who goes for the vacant title in a few months as well, or do we kind of like wait with Demetrius Andrade, put him in the ring 1 or 2 times, and then give him the big fights?
Well, he's not like a spring chicken. He's not like a young starting out in his career. So, Andrade's he's got kind of balls to be calling out, the likes of Billy Joe Saunders. But we've got to see what's happening with Billy Joe Saunders. His career's kind of stalled at the moment, with his injuries and
injuries.
Supposedly back out in September now.
But it'd be good, regardless. We want to have Billy Joe Saunders back soon as. But you mentioned the other name, Daniel Jacobs. That would be a good matchup.
We all love a great showdown between the UK and the US.
But the question you asked about Andrade, Eddie Hearn's plans was to have him go out once or twice before going towards Billy Joe Saunders. But now that the WBO have sanctioned a match between them two, they have to go towards purse bids.
Yeah.
If the Eddie Hearn, because of his budget, if he's able to win the purse bids, Frank Warren's gonna have to let go of Billy Joe for that fight, and Billy Joe's gonna have to fight on Dazn, which would be a massive coup for Eddie Hearn. It's a big fight as well, 50-50 fight.
We're all excited of the prospects that we might get AJ versus Deontay Wilder, but how much would it mean, especially if you got a US-based boxer against a UK boxer, and obviously both brilliant talents that they are? Do you think it's a fight that needs to happen sooner rather than later?
That's a good question actually. I can understand both point of views, whether you want to have it now or maybe in a year's time. Simply because AJ has never fought in the US. I think for him to maximize revenue for himself, he needs to fight in the US, and ideally he needs to have a fight before the Wilder fight in the US, which is why they kept talking about Baby Miller, but for some reason they haven't managed to get that fight.
Andrade and Billy Joe Saunders. When does it need to happen now?
Or them, Andrade. Well,
nothing wrong with talk about AJ and Wilder. There's been a lot of talk about AJ. Andrade, Billy Joe Saunders.
I think it's time Andrade has got a big fight. He's had promotional issues with his company, and he broke out of that, and a lot of times been wasted in his career.
Just want to get your
He's
thoughts.
a 2008 Olympian as well.
If you look at the last 2 fights that Billy Joe Saunders has had, David Lemieux and William Monroe Jr., do you think Demetrius Andrade is a level above them 2 fighters?
Definitely. He's a world champion in the making. I genuinely rate he has a 50-50 fight between him and Billy Joe Saunders. I've seen Andrade. I've followed him since the amateurs. He's skillful. He's really fast, skillful. The only problem is activity. He's
Yeah.
been really inactive, and that hurts the fighter a lot. If you can forget about 1-2
Well,
fights
that's both
before,
of them, isn't it? I mean, both of them been
yeah,
inactive, haven't
but
they?
Billy Joe's been fighting at a higher level though, so
Yeah.
he's used to the standards.
Yeah, I think Bill Joe Saunders for me set the standards in Canada last year with that
That's a
excellent
good- yeah.
boxing performance against David Lemieux. But obviously we're going to move on now, and it's been set for September. Anthony Joshua defends his titles against Alexander Povetkin. You know, they had a little face-off. You know, there was no heat between the two. Behind them is big baby Gerald Miller, who's well, I'm not going to repeat what he says because we don't know who's watching our stuff. But what do you make of big baby Gerald Miller not only turning up late to a press conference, but just kind of like gate crashing it and just putting it out there? He wants a piece of Anthony Joshua.
Who doesn't want a piece of Anthony Joshua? You know,
Yeah.
he's holding all the trump cards at the moment in the heavyweight division. I mean, Jerome Miller. I think he's just trying to make a name for himself. You know,
Yeah.
get a decent name on your record, then you
Yeah.
can talk. You know, so that's my only issue with him. I don't really rate him. That last fight against Duhaupas,
He's
he
way too
looked
heavy.
way
Slow,
too
heavy.
sluggish.
He's over 300
Very
pounds.
sluggish.
I don't understand the thinking behind it, but you know, he needs to kind of go down the route of what Dillian White did, kind of trim down, kind of be a bit more kind of
100%.
a lot more mobile. But I mean, that's a fight that's not going to happen anytime soon.
I don't think
I
he's
mean-
got the discipline to be a top level fighter, because I think his last interview he kept mentioning cheeseburgers. He can't wait to finish his fight and have cheeseburgers, and it's not the right mentality.
I mean, the point being is, you know, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Eddie Hearn's got like a plan set out, 2 fights in Wembley, 1 in September. That's obviously against
1
Povetkin.
April next year, which we hope is against Deontay Wilder.
And all these talks of other fights, I think we're being really disrespectful to Povetkin. This guy is no joke. I mean, he's only lost once in his career, and that's against Klitschko.
You know what puts me off about Povetkin? The fact that David Price knocked
It
it
doesn't
down.
put me off, but
It puts me off. It puts me off big time because I
No.
just think like obviously no
David
disrespect
Price
to
can
Dave.
punch.
Yeah, but no.
What
Yeah.
do you mean? He's
Yeah,
got.
but
He
right,
could.
David, we're not
I
gonna.
don't
I'm
think
not gonna.
Povetkin will be an issue.
I don't think Povetkin's an issue. Listen, no
No,
disrespect to him.
I
He's done well to
disagree.
get
I
his. No
disagree.
disrespect
Yeah.
to Povetkin, but me personally, I think Anthony Joshua wins it within 6 rounds.
Easy, within 2-3
AJ,
rounds.
what could trouble AJ in this fight?
Povetkin.
Yeah.
Well, if Povetkin uses head
I
movements,
wanna rewind back to last year at Cardiff where we went for the AJ Takam fight.
yeah.
Do you think if AJ approaches the fight the way he did with Takam, this could be an upset?
Well, he was really heavy for the Takam fight, and he's
Yeah.
done his lesson. He come back a lot lighter down for the Parker fight. I think for the Povetkin fight, you should stay within same weight category, come in light. Povetkin's a faster puncher than Takam. He'll be more aggressive. He punches harder as well. But then again, he's also shown that he can be hurt because Price had him down really bad.
Yeah.
The only thing that saved him was like 5 seconds out of before the end of the round. If AJ catches him clean, it'll be game over.
Do you think that height obviously will play a bit of an advantage as well for Anthony Joshua, the height and the reach?
Well, it will do. But Povetkin's got to have a good game plan, which is to come in quick and get inside. But AJ will know that, and the way to combat that is keep him at jab, keep him in jab. Basically, watch Foreman versus Frazier first fight.
Yeah.
Just do that, and AJ's got his hands down.
What's Anthony Joshua got
Foreman
to do?
Frazier.
No, I mean,
to
I
retain
don't
the
get me
titles
wrong.
and
I
give us
mean,
that big fight we want to see with
I
Wilder.
do see obviously AJ winning that fight. That's my prediction. You got to remember he's fighting a guy with good amateur background. You know, he's a solid
But
fighter.
he's 37 now, isn't
He's
he?
37.
38 or whatever.
He's not one to be dismissed. I think there's been a lot of talk, and it was quite interesting to see he still remained focused despite all that little melee going on with Miller. He just stood there. He knew he was like,
He's
you
a
know what,
professional, isn't he?
Shows a lot of respect for Povetkin, you know. he
shows
could've-
respect, and he didn't, kind of let it get to him. He was like, even though this little side show was going on, he just kind of held his kind of ground there. I mean, that fight against, Price. I mean, Price can punch. I mean, in the heavyweight division, anyone gets landed with one of those kind of haymakers, they're going down.
That fight summed Price up, and it summed his whole career up to a T.
So
You get punched by him, you're going to get knocked out. You punch him back, you're going to knock him out.
exactly.
That's Price for you. But with AJ, it's different now, isn't it? AJ, he's not going to fall down as quick, and with his punching power, which is harder than Price.
I definitely think the winner of next Saturday night's fight White and Parker will definitely have one eye on that fight, because obviously if it doesn't slot into place with Wilder looking to fight Anthony Joshua in next year in April, it's got to be the winner of Parker versus White, and it could be a potential rematch for Anthony Joshua, whoever the winner is, because he's fought Parker and White twice, and obviously that fight is next week.
I don't want to see the Parker fight again though.
You never know what can happen second time round. As I mentioned, that fight's next week. We'll be obviously doing our podcast on the Dillian White versus Joseph Parker fight. It's a big fight, potential world title eliminator, and we hope to catch up with you guys next week for the podcast. Want to take this time and thank you guys for the opportunity for you guys to be joining us for our podcast. He's HF, he's Ron, and I'm Faisal Khan. Thank you for watching our podcast, and thank you for watching Lights Out.